Hey everyone, today I'm joined by the host of the Crime and Entertainment podcast. His name is Chip Williamson. Me and Chip have interviewed a lot of the same guys, so I thought it was only right to do a show together. So today we discuss some of them guys, especially in the Mafia genre. So today me and Chip talk about a lot of the guys that we've interviewed. We also talk about how he got started into the podcasting industry and where he plans on taking it. He's got a lot of good stuff coming, so please check us out. I'll put a link in the description for his show as well. Please don't forget to hit subscribe to my channel if you want to get more shows like this. And without further ado, let's get into Chip's story. All right. Welcome back to the IOY podcast. Today I got a new guest on today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hollywood Wave from the Crime and Entertainment podcast. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm making it. It's the weekend. It's a holiday weekend, so I'm ready to go.
Yes, same here, man. I was happy. Did you get off early today?
I didn't even have to work today. I had a half a day Thursday, and I was off today, and I'm off Monday, so I got me a nice little break. I'm gonna just relax. You're the only podcast I'm doing until Tuesday. I'm doing you, and then I'm done. I'm taking a break.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me the time. You know what I mean? And so yeah, you're a podcaster as well. So I kind of want to get in your story. Your early life, and what kind of led you into this. I mean? So what was your early life like? Before all this.
I grew up in a little town called Darlington, South Carolina, which really don't have a whole lot there. I mean, it's known for the NASCAR track, and that's about it. That wasn't a huge town. I went to school. I was a welder in school. I took that in our, the elective courses they try to get you to take if you want to pick up a trade. I took that. I did that in college as well. Got my certificate and really just went straight into the work field. Now, while I was going to college, I was also doing radio. So that's kind of maybe, I guess, where you could say I cut my teeth on this. Now, I wasn't ever on air, but I worked with the guys that were on air. So a lot of times I know radio is like almost phased out in some areas now. Everybody's got, streaming services. But back in the day, if you heard somebody broadcasting, like say they were at a car lot, and they would say, hey, we're here at the car lot, come by, get a free soda, hang out with us or whatever. And then, you play music regular. So there's somebody back at the radio station that's kind of manning all that on the boards. They call them board operators. So like when he called in, I would get it set. I would put him on air, let him talk, then bring him back down, put everything back in automation, and it would just continue to play music until it was time for him to go back on. And so I worked for there for really like a whole summer, and just kind of learned a little bit about the business. I mean, not deep, but I'll tell you what, those guys got free perks like you would not believe. Like I didn't pay to eat, I don't think, for like a whole summer. Like really? You got free tickets to restaurants. Like I remember Cracker Barrel, which was, I mean, I know it's not like a 5-star restaurant, but it was still in the neighborhood. And they gave you like these gold tickets. And there must have been like 40 of them. And they were supposed to give them away on air for like call-in requests. And they never gave them away. And so what I did, they gave them to me, and it was supposed to expire like the end of February. And this is like February the 14th, right after Valentine's Day. I'm like, damn, we can, I can't eat here 40 times in, 2 weeks. So I took them and I put a 1 in front of the 2 and made them expire in December. And then we also were doing, promotion work for this big theater that had just come, to town. It knocked all the other little smaller 2 and 3 screen theaters out of business, because this was like, huge 15 screens. So that's how I would date back in the day, man. I get girls and we go to Cracker Barrel and I throw them that gold coupon. I wouldn't have to pay. Then we go to the movies and I'd walk right in. Hey, I'm, Wade, I'm on the list, for 103X, and we go in. I wouldn't have to pay there either. So it was cool. You wouldn't have to pay to get in clubs. They done what was called DJ courtesy and radio courtesy. So we didn't have to pay covers to get in. By not paying the cover to get in, you wouldn't get carded. By not being carded, you wouldn't have an X or a wristband. So once you got in, they assumed you were 21. So then you could drink. So it was really nice. I talked with Dave Iacovetti, and he told me, he said, I tell people all the time that being in the entertainment business is about as close as you can come to being in the mob without being in the mob, because everybody wants to be nice to you because you kind of hold the promotion key. Now, back then, radio was huge with promotion. Nowadays, it's done more stuff through like social media. But back in those days, man, if you weren't on the radio, it was hard for people to find out about you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different game now, I mean, you just go on social media and, post your post and share it to all these groups and,
Yeah.
Instagram and everything, and it's there and, all your friends and everybody see it. But, I guess, back then, doing promotion for you, what were you people promoting? Just like their businesses? I mean, because there was
Yeah.
no podcast
Yeah,
and
it
shit
was
like that.
right. Yeah, no, they would promote car lots. Car salesmen would promote a furniture salesman. I knew this guy. He was one of the top guys at the radio station, and he done promo work for Palmetto Nissan, which was a local dealership. So they gave him like a Nissan Xterra. There
Hmm.
was a huge apartment complex called like Charles Point Apartments, and he done so much work for them. They basically gave him an apartment for free to stay at because he done so much promotion work. He
Damn.
got his furniture furnished from a place called Parrott's Furniture, that was a local furniture store. So like you got to figure, he doesn't have a car payment, he doesn't have a house payment, he doesn't have a furniture, but like that's a lot of what people spend money on there, and he's getting all that for free just because he's
Right.
talking about them on the radio. So don't underestimate what they might not pull down a lot in the regular salary, but from the perks and side gigs and stuff like that, man, it's worth it. You believe you me. And like I said, I wasn't in that a long time, but that's kind of where I guess I cut my teeth in the radio side of things and maybe it's the production side. And I went into the workforce field, man. I was a welder for years. I'm still a welder now. And then about 2 years ago, I didn't even really listen to podcasts, to be 100% honest with you. I'd catch a Joe Rogan every now and then, but I wasn't like a dedicated podcast listener. And then I watched this true crime episode. I forgot what it even was now at the time, but they were interviewing somebody that had done a podcast on it and saying they had like a 10-part series or something. So I'm
Hmm.
like, well, that'd be cool. I want to learn a little bit more about it. So I listened to that one. And then that kind of started the snowball effect of, all right, well, I jumped over to this true crime podcast and then this one and then this one. And then you just started kind of getting sucked into a rabbit hole. And then when COVID hit, I was like, things are slowing down at work. And I was like, I might want to do this. So originally I was going to do a true crime podcast, but there was just so many of them. The market was really saturated with true crime people. And it was going to be hard to kind of come in and make a niche, and especially new. I knew nothing about this, nothing about recording, editing. I didn't even have a YouTube channel. I didn't know what none of this stuff was. And so I decided to tweak it just a little bit and just do crime and entertainment. Then that could open the door to I could really talk about whatever I wanted to talk about, because I didn't
Yeah.
envision myself being able to get guests, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
And
Same
then,
here.
yeah, so I
100 this
mean,
shit.
yeah. So once the guests kind of started coming and then they're enjoying themselves, so they're telling other people or they're saying, oh, well, I know another guy that's got a story similar to mine that, you might would have on. And that's just kind of how it got started, man. The ball started rolling. And what I was doing in the beginning was fitting like episodes that I just talked about a certain thing. And then I would put in my interviews. Well, I would say probably a couple months back, man, I hadn't have time to put in anything that I've talked about because it's just been all interviews since then. So I'm blessed.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. And that's kind of how my shit started too. Back was when COVID first hit. I
Yeah.
started my own clothing brand, and then from there, I branched off to like a year later. I started the podcast because I wanted to give the brand a voice. My brand is called Invest in Yourself. So I wanted to get different people that are, investing in themselves, and they
Yeah, I
got
like
they got
that. I like that. Invest in yourself. That's nice. I like that.
yeah, and you can do them with anybody, you know what I mean? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that's, doing something positive, it could have been, a shitty background or, a life, like the mob guys, like how
Hmm.
all the shit they went through, what I mean, and did, and changed it around, what I mean?
Yeah. By and large, that's almost the message of our show. I don't think we've had anybody on there that tries to tell people, "Hey, go join the mob," or "Hey, go smuggle
No.
drugs," or nothing like that. They tell you, "Look, this is the life I live. This is the life that I was involved in." But a lot of times, there's repercussions to that life. Much like yourself, I've talked with guys that's spent 10 years in prison, 15 years in prison, etc. And they all say it's. I ask them usually at the end of every episode. I ask them, would you change anything? And a lot of them say no, just because they might not be where they're at now. And
Yeah.
because now they're at a better spot. That they've come out, they paid their debt to society. They've learned their lesson. Most people are trying to do something in lieu of not sending people back into the street life. I know John A. Light's real big on that, trying to get these people not to, recommit crimes and go back into the system, because you're just creating a cycle of shit. To be honest with you, when you bring them out, if you don't have something for them to get into, a lot of times people, commit more crimes because it's hard for them to get a job at that point. I think prison reform is something that's really lacking in this country, to give these people a chance when they get out, because the deck stacked against them is setting them up to fail, and they hope that you wind up right back in there.
Yeah, I mean that's what it seems to be, like especially with all the guys, we do interviews with, that's kind of their story when they come out. They're struggling, they don't have nothing to do, but luckily some of these guys do find something to do, and there's that small percentage, or a majority of it. I guess I really don't know the percentages, but that come out, and like you said, they got all this shit stacked against them and nowhere to go, so what else is there to do,
Yeah, it's
at that
hard
point?
for them, man. It's hard, and not even excuse me, mob guys. I mean, just your regular average Joe, man. Say you got in trouble at a young age, hanging in the wrong crowd. You got a
Mhm.
drug charge. When you come out, no jobs want to touch you. It's hard to get a job. It puts you in a situation to where you're more apt to do something illegal to make financial ends meet, to do whatever you got to do. And unfortunately, that's kind of the society we're living in, man. And I know some people have beliefs on that. You do the crime, do the time. Some people have beliefs that, some of these sentences shouldn't be as harsh. I mean, I don't know about where you're at. They're trying to get marijuana legalized down here, because it's insane how many people have been in jail for years for marijuana, and now it's starting to be legalized.
Yeah, and there's still people locked up for it. So
Yeah.
it's just it's insane. I mean, and then, I mean, how many states do you know that have it legalized now?
I don't know right off, but I know it was a pretty decent amount. I mean, what,
Yeah,
Seattle and Colorado
California,
first. I think Massachusetts is legal now. I don't know, but is New York legal?
somewhere in New York is. I think Jersey, maybe. I don't know, some shit like
Yeah.
that. But no, I mean, it's crazy. That even that the fact that it's illegal in some of these states, that that it should, these people that are in there, really shouldn't be
Yeah.
in there for that. You know what I
Yeah, you
mean?
got to think, if it's illegal, or if it's legal now, and that's what you were locked up for, you got to be sitting in jail thinking, "What the hell's going on there?" Like, I don't get this.
Yeah, no, and I know what you mean with the whole, like you were talking about kids, growing up in the early life and, having no direction, and they fall into the shit, and then they get more deeper and deeper, and then they go in jail, they come out, and then they go into the same shit, because like you said, they don't have nothing to come when they're coming out, and that's all they know.
Mhm.
But sometimes in prison, they might learn, hey, I don't want to do this no more, but I don't know, like it's hard, growing up, it's so easy to fall into that shit, that shit
It
cycle you're
is.
talking about, because everything's so glamorized.
Yeah, it is. I mean, those kind of movies, as great as they are, it makes that life seem glamorous. And most of the people that I've talked to said, those times are few and far between, where
Right.
it's glamorous and you're just kicked back enjoying life. By and large, for the most part, you're having to make sure any rival gangs don't want to take you out. B, making sure you don't get caught by the cops for anything that you're doing. And at some point, you're making sure your friends aren't trying to take you out, because as we've learned talking with these guys in these movies, lots of times there's people close to you that take you out. So it's a lot of stuff that's not really glamorized, I guess, the right way in those movies, that make it seem like everything's all peaches and cream and fun, but in reality it's not. It's a hard life to live. It's not an easy life. That's why only a small percentage of people are in it, because of the dangers that it has.
Yeah, and only a small percentage of them, make it out, to be
Yeah,
60
and
years
most
old or
and
some
most
shit. You know what
guys
I
that
mean?
have done probably an extensive time in prison for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree, man. And I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know. Times change and things get better, but I guess as we can see, I mean, there's just so much bad shit still going on in the world. I mean, look what just happened with that Texas shit. Like
Oh man,
another
that's
school
that's
shooting,
awful.
man. That
That's
was
awful.
horrible. I
I
mean,
mean, I hadn't had a chance to dive deep into like all of his reasoning and stuff like that, but I mean, like, I don't know why you would take out whatever frustrations you have on an elementary school full of fourth graders, man. I mean, what the hell could they have done to bully
nothing.
you or anything like that? But and to a sidebar of this, though, people need to understand that if that bullying was his reasoning, even though it's definitely not how he should have handled it. And that also needs to be, an issue too, because who you bully today, by and large, whoever bullied that kid, if it really did happen, to a certain extent, they're responsible. Partly, he
Yeah.
was the one that went in and done what he did. But I've seen people that's been bullied in school, and to the point to where they would cry and not want to come to school, and they would just avoid everybody. And those are the types of guys that you think, God, if something was to go down, I wouldn't be surprised if it was him doing it, because of how rude and ruthless kids were. And I think that's a part of life that, unfortunately, it's just kind of sewn into the fabric. If people aren't tough, if people aren't, willing to stand up for themselves, then a lot of times they get run over. And not everybody's built to handle situations like that. Not everybody's built to, be able to stand up for themselves. And unfortunately, there's going to be those people in life that are just going to, take advantage of somebody like that to try to make themselves look better. And that can come up and wind up costing somebody else their life that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the shitty thing about it, and like you said, I mean, what could those kids have done? The nothing,
Not a thing.
nothing. They don't know, they're little kids. There's no reason to go and do that shit. I mean, there's been so many instances like that, though. I mean, that with these school shootings.
But what there's a couple of weeks ago, the guy in Buffalo, New York, or whatever, when it was shot up the supermarket. I mean, that was awful. Just shooting on, and he recorded it.
Jesus.
Did you see that video?
No, I never seen that.
Somebody sent it to me. I was in a group or something. Somebody sent it. And I was just like, holy God. Like that's when that, like, you're just off your damn rocker, man. Cause he had I don't know if it was a GoPro or what, but like, he got out of the car and just started shooting. And I mean, just anybody he come across, it didn't matter. So I'm like, about people nowadays, you can't trust sending your kid to school. You can't trust going to the grocery store. I live down here in Charleston, South Carolina, and Dylan Roof, a couple of years back, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years ago, he shot up a church down here and killed a bunch of people in the church. So it's like, you can't go to church, you can't go shopping, you can't go to the store, you can't send your kids to school. It's awful.
Yeah.
And I don't know what gun control can do to a certain extent, because as we well know, if bad guys want guns to do something, they're going to find a way to get the guns.
Yeah. And that's the that's the shitty part about it. I mean, there's no, what is the answer, to any of this shit? There's nothing. I mean, what are we supposed to do as just me and you, regular people?
I seen somebody today, and they posted it. It said, when 9/11 happened, we didn't ban planes, we secured the cockpit. So, and that kind of made me think, you can't. I wouldn't worry about banning the guns. I'm worrying about more securing the schools. It might be a little bit more aggravating, because what do we have? The last one was that was Sandy Hook. So thank God it's been, 10 years plus maybe since the last one has happened, but that's still one too many if it happens in the next 100 years. But there needs to be some things put in place where somebody just can't walk up in a school. It might take a little taxpayer money, but I don't think that's one thing that probably people wouldn't complain about. Anything that can keep something like this from happening, because if you can keep somebody like that on the outside, you're really going to limit the amount of casualties that it has. But once they get inside that school, it can be trouble. And I don't know if you heard about it, but was there something about the cops waited a good little while to go in, like 30 minutes or something?
I don't know. I really haven't looked a whole lot into it, like that, because I mean, it's just, I seen all the pictures and everything, but I haven't really went into detail with it.
I gotta do a deep dive on that, man. Maybe I'll do an episode on it or something, try to get people's input on what could be done to fix that, because, all them children losing their life at such a young age is just tragic. And not only them, now you've probably, I'm sure, mentally screwed the ones that didn't get shot up, because they remember their classmates and friends, what happened to them. That's going to be something that'll stick with them for the rest of their life, if they even ever get over it.
Yeah, and dude, I actually did see something today, and it's like the news and everything, but one of the kids that was there, they put blood on themselves, to pretend like they were dead.
Wow.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's gonna screw someone up really bad. You know what I mean? So,
and I mean, to be honest, that's a very smart thing for a kid to do. But why should a kid be having to put in that situation to think of something like that? Like,
yeah,
it's just tragic. And I don't know what in the world is going on with people nowadays, man. But there definitely needs to be something done. And mental health's another part of that, man. Mental health's a huge deal that is finally kind of starting to get the recognition it deserves. But at the same time, people have to be willing to get that help. You know,
Yeah.
they got to make that step. And you know, a lot of times I think, especially with men, man, I think especially with men, they don't want to admit that there's a problem. There's like this kind of myth that if you admit you need help for anything, that you're weak or you're perceived as
Yeah.
weak. And I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we talk a lot with these gangsters and stuff like that, but the show Sopranos, you know, the lead guy, James Gandolfini, this whole series is talking to a shrink because of his problems. So I'll let you know that, you know, whatever he might portray on the outside to all his family, because nobody else knew he was seeing this guy, well, except for his uncle. But, you know, he had problems too. And those things just don't, no matter what you are in the world, whether you're a mobster or a principal or, you know, an athlete, everybody's got problems.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that, man. You know, and once you're able to, admit it, you're able to attack it, and go about how you can, hold, put it in its place, or, not let it overcome you as it may have in the past, what I mean, and not let it have its outburst, whatever the hell it may be, I don't know, whether it's anxiety, depression, you can stop it from when it's about to have like an attack or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it is a good thing to get help if you really need it. It's there. I mean, it is. I think COVID actually, when that shit came, I think the mental health thing, I think that's when it really got utilized
Yeah.
and people looking at that shit.
Yeah, I mean, it made a lot of situations worse. My wife is actually a guidance counselor for a high school.
Oh,
And some of these kids, man, they need interaction. Hell, I need interaction with people.
same.
I mean, I didn't like being in the house. You know, I like to talk, and obviously, but a lot of these kids, man, they needed that. And one thing I think was overlooked when they were keeping kids home from school. I don't know if that happened where you were at or not, but like for a period of time, they wouldn't send
Yeah.
ours to school.
Yeah.
Sometimes, unfortunately, those meals that those kids get at school were the only time they ate all day. And I think
Damn.
that's parts that people overlooked of, if those kids didn't go to school, they didn't really get fed. And
Shit.
it's horrible, but that's things you got to look at. Not everybody's coming from the same side of the tracks. Everybody's got different issues at home. Sometimes people might have been going to school because they didn't want to be home because one of their parents were abusive. There was a lot of things that I don't think was taken into account when that stay at home stuff, started getting put into place. But, I know there obviously was some dangers with the virus too. I mean, knock on wood, I never had it, that at least that I know of. I only
Really?
got tested twice. My wife had it, so I just assumed that I was going to get it,
Yeah.
and I never did. So knock on wood, and that's like I said, that's me knowingly. Now I could have had it, and I've known people that had it, and they said that they didn't feel anything.
Yeah. See,
But
I had it. I had it back in January. I don't even remember how to. I don't know how to. Oh, it was like my old John. A few other coworkers had it, I guess, and then I ended up getting it. I went and got tested. But I felt fine. I didn't feel fine. No, I did. But I could still taste and I could still
yeah,
smell. But I felt like it was like a difference. It was like almost like a hangover, but like
yeah.
shittier. The body aches and everything. But that's pretty much as worse as it got. Coughing, sneezing.
Yeah, and I have hangovers quite a bit, so it could have been mixed in there with one of them, and I just didn't pay it no attention.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know why, but it is crazy. I was just craving like hot wings, like Buffalo Wild Wings or some shit. I just have DoorDash bring me some shit, but yeah,
Yeah,
it was a weird thing. Everybody's, was impacted differently by it. It killed a lot of people, and for me, I didn't really feel shit. But I'm younger. What I mean, I'm
yeah.
22.
I mean, my wife, she lost her taste and smell, but she never really got to the point where she felt bad. She just lost her taste and smell,
Hmm.
and it was gone from her for quite a while. She got her smell back first. Her taste, it took a while for her taste to come back.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from a few other people too. The taste, it just don't come back. Or I mean, eventually it came back, but it took
Yeah,
like.
eventually, but yeah, not quick. Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know. That's a weird. That's something else we ain't never heard of.
Did you lose yours?
No, like I said, I didn't lose shit. I
Oh, you
just.
never looked at. Wow. I don't know. I
I,
was just curious. Like, how would you? Like, I guess at that point you could just start eating healthy food because, like, what,
yeah.
what does it really matter if you're not tasting it anyway?
Yeah.
Might as well drink water and eat, broccoli and all kind of healthy shit because if you're not tasting it, what does it really matter?
Yeah. What's it matter then? No, I mean, so with like everything that you kind of went through, and you have this voice, so it really made you want to do a podcast, right? So how do
Mhm.
you imply all this stuff that you've went through and, put it to your podcast now?
It really just depends on the guest, man, because like I said, we're not, although I do have a lot of interviews with mob guys on here, I've got interviews with, movie directors, movie stars, from TV and television. I've interviewed a good number of people from The Sopranos, a lot of authors I've had on, a lot of guys from wrestling backgrounds, even had a few porn stars on. So it all depends on what, what the guest is and what I can relate to. Like I was a huge wrestling fan back in the day. For instance, we had former adult film star Jasmine St. Clair on the show. So we were able to talk a little bit about her time before she got into the adult film business, where she was a exotic dancer and some trouble she got into with inner stock tradings and stuff like that. Then when she got in there, when she got out of the adult film business, she kind of went into the wrestling. And that was kind of a neat thing because I don't know if you ever heard of that show, Dark Side of the Ring. Well, it's on Vice, I think, Vice Network.
What's it about?
Well, they'll pick stories from wrestling and just kind of do an episode on it, whether it's, somebody's death or somebody individual, or that the one that they watched done that way was called XPW. And basically that was a wrestling promotion out of California that was kind of a rival to like ECW. They done crazy shit, people diving off balconies and setting each other on fire. Yeah, and that's basically what they were, but they were the West Coast version. And but the guy that owned it also ran a porn company. So one of the wrestlers was like, he said it was nothing for me to come in to go to work to wrestle a match, and I got to walk through the set. And he's like, I see a Statue of Liberty bent over on a desk with 5 ex-presidents, standing around or running the train on her. So I was just like, Jesus, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But she spent a little time in there, and then she got out and she actually went with ECW. So it's just, it all depends on the guest, man. I recently had his episode's not aired yet, but I recently had a guy on who spent 4 years in prison for the murder of his wife, which he did not do. He was, I say loosely framed, but they didn't have any evidence on him, but they just zeroed in on him so quick they didn't even look at anything else. And anything that was there that could kind of prove that he wasn't doing it was buried and not allowed into court. And he wound up doing 4 years in prison before they finally introduced some of the evidence that they buried in the original trial. And then he was exonerated, and the real killer was actually caught, which was a friend of his wife's, a female friend. She had, unbeknownst to him, even signed over like portions of a life insurance policy. And the thing about this is this woman had stage 4 cancer. Like it wasn't that they were fighting to live. It was just enjoying the time that was left. This was the time frame that was there. So what really, if you stop and think about that just for a minute, pretend you're a cop. I know when a wife or a spouse, wife, husband die, I know usually the suspect is, the other spouse.
Yeah.
But if you stop and look at that, like if his wife is literally probably inside of 5 months left to live, and he's not the beneficiary of any, insurance policy, which he should be anyway, regardless, just because he's her husband. But with that situation, and then she stabbed to death, like, does that make any sense? Does that really make any sense? But especially if you look at it, he's not even the beneficiary. It's another woman, somebody not even really in the picture. And she had forged it on there. And she was 4 years before she ever actually went to prison.
Damn. What did she end up getting life or some shit after that?
Yeah, well, she actually killed another man. She killed another guy after this. After the guy got out, before that trial even went, she killed another man trying to get more money and was almost about to kill a woman. There's actually a TV show on it right now on Hulu. It's called The Truth About Pam. Renee Zellweger plays Pam. Now, Pam was the woman that killed Russ Faria's wife. And I watched the documentary. The documentary is crazy as hell. But, I mean, the story is even crazier because that was just how that woman was thinking. But she's in jail now, thank God. And, but yeah, it was just crazy. And I think a lot of times that people don't want to admit that the justice system is flawed too. And it makes mistakes like that.
There's an example right there.
Yeah, it's a great one. And those are the kind of things I want to bring to the show, man. Things like that. A lot of these guys that have these stories when they were, smuggling drugs and stuff like that. Yeah, they were, living life on the edge back then. But nowadays they just tell you, it's not worth it. So at the end of it, it just kind of puts a positive spin on things and tries to steer, these young folks in the right direction. Because I think we had Ciro DiPaggio on the show, and he said, anybody that's doing anything like that now everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's recording. You got cameras and lights, light poles. Every store's probably got one, got a Ring doorbell. Like, you can't get away with nothing hardly right now. If you're doing something criminal, especially out in the open right now, you just got to be dumb. I mean, that's really all there is to it.
Yeah, and even when if you stay at home and you go online and do shit, they're gonna find it.
Yeah, they're gonna chase you there. I mean, and the thing about it is, a lot of these guys that do these things, they're very smart. So if they applied it to something else, I think they would probably be just as successful. Maybe not quite the same money, but still be just as successful, and not have to worry about going to jail.
Yeah, so that's true.
A lot of these guys, the old time. You look at the old timers like Meyer Lansky, great with numbers. Lucky Luciano, how he was able to bring everybody together and form the five families. I mean, that's some brains there, to form what would become the five families and put up order and structure into La Cosa Nostra. I mean, that takes a special kind of something that if he'd opened up a business or anything, I'm sure it would probably still be thriving to this day. But they chose the life they did. But a lot of those guys, man, are really smart guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, and it's just it's just what you choose and what's around you when you grow up. I mean, even no matter how your parents raise you, you're still going to do whatever you want, but even if you're more likely to do some bad shit if they're, doing bad shit, it's kind of hard to get out of that cycle or whatever is around you. But, it can be vice versa too. You can be raised in a great family and still, do some bad shit. So it's really all up to the person, but when it comes down to it, so that's just how people are. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's it exactly, man. And you think how much the Mafia was ahead of the curve in certain things, and by saying that, I mean this. So, like, they ran numbers, which is basically a version of the lotto. Mm-hmm. Back then, even in South Carolina, the lottery's only been legal for maybe I don't know, last 10 years or so. Maybe before that, we didn't have a lottery, so we couldn't do that. And now there's lotteries everywhere. I think everybody's got lotteries, from scratch off tickets to picking your pick 5, pick 3, pick 7, Powerball, all that. Yep. So they were ahead of the ball on that. Government basically done the lottery. Now they're able to tax it because somebody wins. They're going to tax that money. Sports betting, gambling. Larry Mazza was huge in that, amongst many other guys. Now, you can't watch a football game without a DraftKings commercial or a FanDuel commercial coming on, or listen to a podcast with people advertising MyBookie or whatever, something, a place for you to go on and make bets. Now it's all legal. They threw these guys in jail for it back then. Then you got loan sharking, putting out money at high interest rates. I don't know about where you live at, but around here you can't go 10 feet without running into a cash advance place. And I thank God I've never had to be in enough dire straits to go in one. But the interest rates that they charge you in there is astronomical. I mean, it's basically higher than what probably the mob would charge you. And so, those are legal. People are going in there paying 30%, 40% interest because they're in a bind. I mean, all those things that the mob done for years that they got through in jail for are now legal in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Now, like we mentioned earlier, marijuana is about to be legal. We got CBD stores on every corner now, selling stuff like that. So it's amazing what changes over time. You say you put a guy in jail back in the 80s and he gets out now and he's probably going down the list of like, all right, well, that's legal. That's legal. What the hell did I just do all this time in jail for?
Yeah, that's true, man. I don't know. Maybe, they'll go about, getting these guys out of there somehow, eventually. But I mean, until then, it's just, I don't know. It's shit,
Yeah. It's the government, man. That's how they are. And, I've had quite a few people tell me that the government is the biggest mob in the world.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I'm sure you have. We've interviewed a lot of the same people, so I'm sure you have heard that. That's kind of the underlying factor that all of them say. But I agree with it, man. I really do. I think there's a lot of truth in that, because if they want you, they're going to come get you. They got unlimited resources to pour into you. So it's I can see why they say that.
Yeah.
100%.
I do. I got a few questions I was going to ask you. You know, what is
Yeah.
a lesson that you've learned from business, where you might have been screwed out of a situation that you can prevent someone else from going through?
Lesson in business, I would say if you got an idea, get an entertainment lawyer and get it documented, whether you got to go through and get a patent on it. Like when you come up with an idea, whether it be the name of your, your show here, go get it trademarked, get the domain as quick as you can. Go ahead and get all that stuff, because if somebody sees you and they see you coming up and they see potential, they'll go grab that domain name hoping they can make a few dollars, because you're going to have to buy it from them to have it. They can flat out, I've heard stories from people where people say, oh, we met and I was telling them about an idea. Well, the next thing they know, they're taking that idea and running with it. And they've went to a lawyer and got a patent on it. So there's nothing you can do. So if you're an entrepreneur and you got an idea, the best thing to do is to keep it quiet until you put it into motion. Once you put it into motion, get a lawyer and get all of it, patented, trademark, whatever you got to do, depending on what the idea is, then you can tell it. But it's best just to not tell nobody, work in silence until it's done and then do it. Now, fortunately, I've not had those issues. I've had some dealings where, people would say they were going to do something with me and I would kind of count on that. And then, for one reason or another, they wouldn't follow through with what they had, and I had to make arrangements and go somewhere else. But I wouldn't say I really lost any money on that. It was more or less time, because I was wasting my time waiting on them to do something that they didn't deliver on. But definitely, any ideas that people have, go get them trademarked and patented, whatever you can do quick, because people will steal ideas from people really quick. And you would be kicking yourself if you had this idea that turned into be something great that you didn't take the proper steps to, make sure that those solidify that they were your ideas.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. What are some struggles you went through that got you to where you are today?
I mean, just life, I worked, like I said, with a steel company, and I worked swing shifts. So basically I would work 4 days on and then I would work 4 days off, and you would have 4 days off in the middle. So on paper, that sounds good. So you're thinking, come in, you work 4 days, then you're off 4 days and you work 4 nights. So you basically you work half the year, but those night shifts were brutal. And I was missing a lot with my daughter, and I missed a lot of her, high school years. And then my son was coming up, and I was missing a lot with him. So I had to leave that company, and that was a struggle, because it was a good company. They took care of you financially, you're 6 figures. And then when you left, I had to take a major pay cut. But then at the same time, that afforded me to, if you follow my personal page, now I'm able to coach youth football and be involved with my son in sports. Those are things I could have never done, working with that company. And, at a certain point, you can't put a price on happiness. I might've been making good money then, but as a person, I was miserable a lot of the times. I'm making probably about half of what I was making then, but I'm a much happier person now, being able to be home every night and, not work the weekend, spend time with my family, be a better father, be a better husband. And, it was a struggle at first, because when you get acclimated to a certain kind of lifestyle and a certain kind of income, when you have to adjust and go back, that's hard. It's a lot easier for people to go up when you make more money, but it's a real stressful situation when you got to go down. And that's probably one of the biggest ones that I've had to face over the last few years.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a really good point. You can't put a price on your time. You don't get that back. I mean, you can make money, you can do whatever, but it's just time. Time is just something that none of us like to waste. And you don't get that. You don't get that shit back. That's the worst thing you can waste from someone.
Yeah. Now, I was talking to my wife the other day, and she was like, "Do you miss it?" And I said, "I don't miss the job." I said, "But I miss the money." And she was like, "Yeah, but look at all this time you've got to have. He's played youth football from the time he was 7 all the way up to 12. He just turned 13, so now he's going to be playing ball for the school. But I've been involved in some way, shape, form for every single year of it. And I was even coaching my own team at one point, and it's I never would have been able to do that. They're working that crazy schedule, and those crazy hours, that just wouldn't have been possible. So it's, it was an adjustment. It was a struggle, but at the same time, I think it had a really good payoff, and it's led me into this right here too, as well.
Yeah, now you got time for this too.
Yeah, yeah, I got extra time for this too.
Yeah. Well, where can the people find you, man? What your platforms and everything? I'll put
Uh,
links in the below the description too.
Absolutely. Well, we're on the YouTube. You can go at Crime and Symbol Entertainment. We're on there. We're on anywhere you get audio podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon. We're also on the Stitcher app. I like to tell people about that Stitcher app if they don't know. I know some people, especially older people, are reluctant to get a Spotify or an Apple because they don't want to do anything subscription based. So I tell them if they get that Stitcher app, it doesn't matter what phone you have. It's for Apple or Android. You don't have to have a subscription, and you can go, and it's strictly for podcasts, and ours are on there. You can go from the very first episode all the way to current and listen. There's a ton of other great ones on there too. So that's another way to find us. I think we're on pretty much every audio platform but Pandora. For whatever reason, they haven't wanted to put Crime and Entertainment on their platform. But on the social media side of things, we are on Instagram at Crime N, letter N Entertainment. And then over on Facebook at Crime and Entertainment. And I'm on Facebook as well, my personal page at Chip Hollywood Wade Williamson.
Yeah, well, thank you again for coming on, giving me time, and really talking about these different topics and your life and how you got into this, man. I really enjoyed it. We really touched on some touchy things, and that were really,
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you, man.
Hey, absolutely no problem at all. I enjoyed it, and it's good having conversations that's away from what you normally do, and especially about issues that really need to be addressed. So I agree. We touched on some stuff that involves everybody here, and I think we need everybody's help into figuring out a solution because we gotta make a change at some point somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, what'd you guys think of Chip? He's a really interesting guy, right? He's nothing but a gentleman. He's always been nice to me, and he's always helped me. He supports me. I support him. We've done a few segments together, so please go check him out. I'll put the link to his channel in the video description, so please check him out and support him. Also, please don't forget to hit subscribe if you like this interview and you want to get more like this. And if you want to support me and my brand, I got t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, and sweats all on my website. I'll be sure to put my website's link in the description if you want to check it out. At the end of this video, there'll be a playlist link of all my other Mafia interviews. I think a lot of you guys will enjoy that because me and Chip have both interviewed a lot of them guys. So please check it out. And thank you guys all again so much for watching.